All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the Vays channel for an old episode of an on the record series, an old series on the record with a new episode. And this time we're going to talk about Start9. Start9 is one of our sponsors. They were a sponsor last year at the Unconfiscatable conference. You see the branding, of course, behind me. The conference will take place in Las Vegas. The first weekend of March 4th and 5th. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on my guests, and then I'm going to go ahead and do screen share. And but before I get off the big screen, this is going to be the product that we're going to talk about. This is the Embassy from Start9. It's on my desk at the moment. Since I'm traveling so much, it's not always plugged in, though it certainly should. But I also like to travel with this thing every now and then. All right, guys, I'm going to bring on my guests. Here they are. Of course, you all know Lex, a Bitcoin mechanic. We can introduce him as well, but you guys are familiar with him. But I want to introduce Matt Hill. Matt is the CEO of Start9, and he will go ahead and introduce the rest of the guys. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having us all. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so as Tone said, I'm Matt Hill. I'm the CEO of Start9. I'm one of the co-founders as well. We actually unveiled our original Alpha V1 product at Unconfiscatable in 2020, February 2020. So you were our first public appearance, Tone, and we're happy to be coming back. So with me today, as Tone mentioned, is Lex, Bitcoin mechanic. Mechanic is a member of Start9. He represents us in community channels. He helps package services for the platform. He does tech support. He does talks. He does video production. He does all of the things. We're very, very happy to have him on board. Chris Guida there in the blue shirt. He has been with Start9 now for well over a year, actually. You started tinkering back in early 2021. Chris is a rockstar developer, Embassy OS dev, does a lot of service packaging for us. And, you know, as we'll get into here, maybe a little bit later, service packaging on Embassy OS is not a matter of just, you know, throwing a Docker container on a device. It is actually quite involved and requires a decent amount of skill, time, and effort. Aiden there with the beanie on, Dr. Bones, is also a co-founder of Start9. We started this up together along with Keegan McClelland back in late 2019. Aiden is the primary architect, lead developer, senior developer at Start9, primary architect of Embassy OS 0.3.0, which has been long awaited, much anticipated, very big piece of software we've been working on for just about a year now. Aiden is the brains and architect behind that. He's not the only one, obviously, but he has led that charge. So that's it.
All right, here are the Twitter handles, guys. Everyone's descriptions are in the video description for all the Twitter handles. There's Chris. Of course, you guys know Bitcoin Mechanic. Matt, that is your Twitter handle. And Start9 Twitter handle is somewhere on my list as well. Here are some more of your team members. And here's the Start9 Twitter handle as well. So go ahead and give everybody a follow. Wow, I was following you guys individually, but not the company. Now I am. And also, for a limited time, if you guys purchase a Start9 Embassy, you can go ahead and use the link in my video description. Put in the discount code Unconfiscatable, and you will get a free ticket to Unconfiscatable. We are doing that for the first 9 people that buy an Embassy. Or, you know what? If you buy an Embassy during the show, during this interview, we'll give you a free ticket, even if we go over 9 people buying an Embassy, because we want people to have one. All right. Also, of course, Unconfiscatable. These guys will have a table, and they will do a demo at Unconfiscatable as well. But everyone will get a sneak preview of that. And Bitcoin Mechanic did one back in Dubai that is on the Understanding Bitcoin channel. You can also learn about the embassy there. The link is in the video description. On that note, I'm going to end my screen share, and I'll let the guys talk about Start9 as a company and about the products that they have. And I will try to come up with good questions while watching your live chat for any additional questions.
Hey, one more thing, Tone. If they use the discount code Unconfiscatable, they also get 15% off the purchase of their embassy in addition to the free ticket to the conference.
Sweet. How much do they get if they use the Tone Vays discount code?
I think it's 11%, but that's in perpetuity. The Unconfiscatable one is a one-time deal until the conference or until we sell those 9. So that's it.
All right, guys. Use the Unconfiscatable discount code instead of a Tone Vays. You get a better deal. All right, so who wants to take it away? Matt, you want to talk about the company a little bit, or you want to jump right into the embassy? I'll let you drive on this one, and I'll just think of good questions.
Look, the primary purpose of today, I think, is to demonstrate what we have been doing for the last year. We know there's a lot of people out there who are tapping their feet, wondering where 030 is and what it looks like and what it's going to be capable of. So let's just dive right in. We'll have ample opportunity to talk about the company and the reason behind the things we're doing as we go. But I'm going to hand this over to Aiden, Dr. Bones there, and he can start to give us a tour of the new product.
Muted.
All right, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and start by taking a look at our new 030 UI. I'm actually going to have Chris share his screen for this. Chris has an embassy, an 030 embassy all set up. And we can do a quick little walkthrough of the new embassy UI. All right, so here we have a screen with all of the services he has installed. And why don't you go ahead and click on one of those, Chris? And
all right, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. So here's 030. As you can see, we have 10 different services here. This is actually half of the number of services that you can get on the marketplace. So these are the ones that are installed on this box right now. I guess I'll just start clicking around and you guys can ask any questions or make any exclamations.
So yeah, here is one of our service UIs. We have Vault Warden. Vault Warden is the new name for the Bitwarden server that we used to host. They've rebranded themselves as Vault Warden now. So here we have a health check that's going ahead in this. It's the Embassy OS. Whenever a service is launched, it will continue to run these health checks to ensure that all of your services are running and happy. Here we have Vault Warden. All we have is a health check just to make sure that the service is running, right? And it's currently succeeding.
Yeah. So so what that means is I can just click this Launch UI button and it'll actually just launch the service. So in this case, this is a password manager. And so clicking this Launch UI button will just bring you into the UI. Then you can log in.
So this is an application on the embassy. So an embassy is a personal server, which probably someone should probably give an overview of what the embassy does, and we go from there. And then we're going to talk about what makes Vault Warden a better password manager than the traditional stuff on the market, like LastPass and some of the others.
Yeah, who wants to give
actually? Why don't we actually move over to my screen real quick, and I can actually go through this from the ground up. Let me share my screen here. All right.
So just to finish that question, actually, so Vault Warden is a self-hosted password manager, and this is the reason why it's better than all the other password managers that you know. You're hosting it on your personal server, which is the little Raspberry Pi that Tone showed at the beginning of the show. So all of your data is hosted on a box in your house. So that's why it's better than LastPass, because you don't have to trust LastPass with all of your passwords.
All right. So I have in the corner of the room here, I can't really show you just because it's not in the view of my computer's camera right now, but I have in the corner of my room one of these boxes plugged into the power outlet and plugged into the Ethernet port of my router. And it is brand new, right? I just put a fresh SD card in there, and we are going to set it up. So yeah, this is a personal server. This is exactly what would happen if you got if you ordered an embassy from Start9 and you plugged it into the wall for the first time, and then you go in your browser to this URL embassy.local. What's happening here when you go to this URL, it is actually connecting directly to a web page that is being hosted by this server in your house. On the bottom of that embassy is a 12-digit code, which is your product key. This is how we will make a encrypted connection to your device. So that way, if there's anybody who's on your LAN and is able to see the network traffic, as soon as I click submit here, we're going to use this product key to encrypt all future traffic. So as anybody who doesn't know the product key won't be able to see any of these messages. Let me make sure I have the right product key here real quick. I do not, hold on.
So while you're doing that, I just want to show again what this device looks like. It's a Raspberry Pi with a cool little case on it. And it's got a product key on the back. And so if you buy one of these from us, that's really got the product key. It's just printed on the back there.
You might want to mute while you're typing it.
All right, one sec.
Yeah, it'd be good to zoom out a little bit while you're doing that and like talk about the overall picture, and maybe we'll revisit that later. I feel like we're diving in to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, now a lot of my viewers already have the embassy. We've been talking about it, promoting it for quite a while. And this show is different. You guys know my YouTube channel is different. Our conferences are different. We are very careful as to who we let sponsor these conferences, because it's not about the money. It's about giving you a product that we feel is something that we want to promote. That is priority number one. And Start9 Embassy has been a product that has been a big friend of this show, and a product that everyone has been happy with that got one up to this point, and hopefully in the years to come.
All right,
Aiden, do you want us to switch back over to Chris's while you look up this key?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I actually literally can't stop my share. I'm sorry. I've been having issues with my Zoom today.
That's okay. No big deal. If I take over share to mine, plug the conference one more time, and I can stop share. So Chris, go for it.
Aiden, can you mute your mic? We can hear you typing. All right, so
Looks like Aiden's crashed again.
yeah, I think Aiden's using Linux, which doesn't work that well with Zoom sometimes. Tone, is there any way you can switch the share to me?
Thought I did. I did the share to myself, and now when I exit it, can you just do screen share, Chris?
I pressed screen share, but it says you cannot share screen while the other participant is sharing. So it still thinks that,
So Zoom is really messing up. Like right now, I should be the one sharing screen.
It's stuck on Aiden's. I think maybe
It's stuck on Aiden. So Zoom is having some serious issues. There we go. And now when I exit, it goes back to him. Wow. Wow.
all right.
All right.
There we
back
go. We got it. We're back. Zoom is trouble. All right, Chris, go for it.
Actually, we can switch back to my stream.
Now we're fixed.
Yeah, we're all fixed here.
Now we know how to
sorry
fix it
about
if it breaks.
that. All right. So we have now our embassy. This is the new 030 setup flow. So if you are coming from O2X, you have an embassy, you have an embassy, you'd be clicking this recover flow, but I'm actually going to do this from the perspective of a fresh embassy setup. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select a storage drive. So I have connected to my embassy now a solid state disk drive. This is going to be so back in the previous version of the embassy, we would store all of the data on these high endurance micro SD cards that were plugged into the embassy. But this time, now we have a solid state drive. This is going to be a lot faster. It's going to be able to store a lot more data. And now you can download the entire Bitcoin blockchain. There's a lot of improvements that come here. So I'm going to just make up a fake password real quick for this demo. And now we are, what's happening here is it is taking that password along with some extra data, all encrypted with the product key, sending it over to the embassy. And the embassy is now setting up that solid state drive such that all of your embassy data is stored on the solid state drive. And then all of the operating system data is staying on the SD card. This separation of data is really important for O3O. Because what it does is it makes sure that you can basically, and no matter what happens to your actual embassy, as long as your data drive is safe, nothing can go wrong here. And so if you want to literally swap out the SD card with a new copy of the operating system, everything's going to be fine. Is everyone still able to hear me properly?
Yes, but your video is frozen. So
No, it's working.
Your screen is fine. The webcam's frozen.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. So as long as the screen share is working, that's fine.
Yeah, screen share is good.
yeah.
All right. So now we have completed setup of our embassy. It's going to prompt me to download this file. This file has a copy of all this information it's about to present to me, just in case I lose it. But for now, I'm not going to bother downloading that. I'm just going to go ahead and navigate directly to this Tor URL that it sets up. This is a Tor hidden service that is set up by my embassy, in which we are hosting the embassy dashboard. So this is not any other site on the internet. This is being hosted by.
Oh no,
We
we lost
lost
him
him.
again. We lost him again.
I'll tell you what, now that he has done the setup, Chris, why don't you just share your screen?
Okay, hopefully I
And
can share my screen because Aiden dropped off. So let's.
You can.
Yeah, so go ahead and share your screen. I will kind of walk through the demo now that, it's in. So what Aiden just completed was the initial setup, minus the technical difficulties that he was having with Zoom and whatever demo box he was using. The setup process is, a matter of, 60 seconds to 2 minutes. If you're migrating from O2O, O2X, it could take quite a while as your data migrates over. But once you're in, your dashboard will look something like this. Okay, so you have this main page that displays all of your running services, or I should say installed services, because they don't have to be running. As you can see there with Ride the Lightning, it is actually in a stopped state, right? So this here shows Ride the Lightning is stopped. As you can see, Chris could start it if he wanted to. It shows that Ride the Lightning has a dependency on LND and that dependency is satisfied. If it were not satisfied, Embassy OS would throw a fit and tell him that he needs LND to be installed in order to run Ride the Lightning, and then would allow him to do that with the click of a button. So he wouldn't actually need to go satisfy that dependency himself. Embassy OS would be able to do it on his behalf. But in this case, it is satisfied, so no big deal. If we look down at what a normal page looks like here, okay, so he just clicked start. And as you can see, it's in a starting state. Now that it's running, the health check system kicks in and is immediately saying that there is an issue here. For whatever reason, Ride the Lightning, it did not fire up satisfactory.
This is a spurious error. There's actually no error happening here. This will clear in a minute, but we'll give it a few seconds.
Okay. So at the top here, you have instructions. This will be a detailed set of instructions on how to actually use Ride the Lightning. Underneath that, you have config. So config in Embassy OS is entirely unique amongst all the Node plug and play products. in that you are able to edit these .conf configuration files that are often massive and not unvalidated. There's often very, sparse documentation around these things. And through the dashboard here, you're able to edit these config files in a fully validated way that looks like any other form you've encountered in the past. What we should do is show them the Bitcoin config, because
the health check is passing now. I just wanted to note that. But yes, I was going to go to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a much larger config file here.
Bitcoin's config is huge. And as you'll see, so this is what would ordinarily be a bitcoin.conf file, represented as a fully validated form with dropdowns, toggles, inputs, radio buttons, etc.
Yeah. So, one of the new features of the Bitcoin D in 030 is you can finally disable pruning. So you can finally have a full archival node. And so you can run.
I got to correct you, Matt. You said a bitcoin.conf file. I think you meant bitcoin.org.
No. So Bitcoin.
Wait, what do you, was that a joke?
Right.
Well, wait, no, we're not saying bitcoin.com, right? We're saying bitcoin.conf.
Conf.
Like
okay, yeah, I heard .com, and I'm like,
got you. Yeah, no,
running
bitcoin.com.
node. You can change a lot of the things it does. You can put in the credentials for how a Lightning node would interact with the Bitcoin node, things like that. And that requires setting up various things inside this conf file. It's short for configuration, I guess, or config.
Yeah. So normally when you set up a Bitcoin node and you run your own full node, you'll want a bitcoin.conf file. And this is what tells Bitcoin how you want to run it. And so what we've done is we've translated that text file, sort of cryptic text file, into this slick GUI. And so, everything on here is validated. You can't enter, incorrect information. Bitcoin will always just work.
You can select which client you're going to be running, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So this is just, so Bitcoin D, this service here is Bitcoin D. This is Bitcoin Core. It's just the backend.
Mm-hmm.
And so the client that you use is up to you. So you can use Spectre, or you can use Fully Noded. You can use Sparrow. You can use any number of Lightning wallets that connect to Bitcoin D on the back end. It's the sky is the limit, really. This is you are part of the Bitcoin network, or I am part of the Bitcoin network with this node, because it's fully, as you can see, it's fully synced. And so it is participating in the network. And so it is a fully validating, fully archival Bitcoin node running on a box that looks like this in my house.
Yeah, I want to just hammer home how awesome it is that we offer this, because we're unrivaled here. The configuration is something that if you're using any of the other products that do what Embassy does, you always have to SSH in and start tweaking settings manually, which defeats the whole point of this being a plug and play, user-friendly experience. This has been one of the largest amounts of things we've done on the Embassy, is allow all this to be configurable in a friendly interface like this. And there's no other option to do this. If you want to be able to do this, this is how you do it with an Embassy.
Yep. And so as you'll see there's little question marks next to everything, and those will explain exactly what those settings are for. Chris, if you want to click one of the explainers.
Well,
yeah, there's one. A nice description. The point is that they all have one. Sometimes they're super useful, other times they're not. Usually if they're describing a dropdown, they're just going to tell you what that is. So there you go. Database cache. So that's explaining exactly what a database cache is and why you might want to change it. If you were to go ahead and put in an invalid entry into that. So Chris, go into database cache and start typing, so you'll notice there that it also popped a warning, right? When he went to go change this value, it said, warning, if you change this value, such and such, might happen. So not only is it explaining what the setting is, but it is providing, critical alerts in case, you screw it up. And here he's trying to put in a number that's too big, and MCOS is telling him that the number needs to be a certain size, greater than 0 and less than, I think it was 6
gigabytes, basically. Yeah.
So anyway, that's the config system. Aiden, how back are you?
Oh, I'm back. The issue is that the screen sharing seems to be my problem here.
Maybe turn off your webcam, actually, because it might be that you're screen sharing excellent. And the webcam at the same time.
That is a good idea. All right. I have disabled my webcam, and actually, we can go. Let me try sharing my screen again. If this causes any more problems, though, we can continue to
All right,
work off
we'll try one more
this.
time. Here we go.
Yeah. All right, sharing screen. Here we are. Okay, so here is my fresh embassy. Currently, I have no services installed whatsoever. I can click this button and it will take us to the marketplace. And here are all of the services we have available. These are just our featured services. We have Synapse and Embassy Pages, but let's say we would go to the Bitcoin stack. I want to go install Bitcoin Core, right? So I click this button and it will begin the installation. We have a nice little progress bar. If we actually go to this service, you can see all of the process of installing this service. And then once this completes, I'll be able to actually use it. I can go actually install several things at once right now if I want.
Why don't you show the marketplace page a little, Aiden?
Yeah, sure. So here we have, this is our Bitcoin category of items. So we have some categories here, and these are all the things that have something to do with Bitcoin, right? From Bitcoin to Lightning to wallet implementations to Sphinx Chat, which is like a layer on top of Lightning. All of those are here in this category. If I go look at a service that I want to install, so let's say here we are at Bitcoin Proxy. I already have installed, and it tells us that, hey, this thing is going to require Bitcoin Core. That by default, we need it. There might be, what this implies is there might be ways that we can get around this requirement, perhaps by connecting to an external Bitcoin node. But the general way that you're going to use this is going to require that you have this other service installed. We can install older versions if they were available on the marketplace. Right now, we only have one version of this available on the marketplace. We have its license available. So if you want to see the licensing, make sure that you're only installing free open source software, right? If you have, concerns about certain licenses, that's there. And then if you want to actually go see the documentation and the repository where this was packaged, all of this is open source and you can see it. I want to see the code for this application. Here it is right here. All right, so then if I go back to the marketplace, let's also go ahead and install Vault, Warden, and File Browser while we're at it.
Yeah, so I just want to break in here really quick. So one of the really powerful things about Embassy OS is that it takes all of the guesswork out of setting up a bunch of services that are dependent on other services. And it already knows which services need which other services, and it tells you there's a problem and how to fix the problem. If if Bitcoin D isn't installed and you're trying to run Lightning or something like that. None of the other personal server products on the market do this at all. You just have to figure it out and hope it works, and look at the error messages, SSH in, look at the logs and just be like, oh, just kind of hopefully if you're a relatively technical person, you can figure it out. But if you're less technical, you might not be able to figure it out.
Right. Okay, so now I have File Browser here installed. It's not running, but there's nothing really to configure about this, so we can actually just go ahead and start it right away. But here we also have instructions. This will tell you how to use the service. We've gone over a little bit of this, but there's no configuration for this thing, so there's nothing to do there. Unfortunately, Zoom is actually covering up my launch button real quick. Let me resize this window.
Let me just
and click start. Here we go.
Wow. So File Browser is it's a file hosting platform. And so if you connect a 1 terabyte hard drive to your Embassy, then you can host a terabyte of files on File Browser if you want. If you also want to have a full archival Bitcoin D node, then that's like 400 gigs, and so you'll have like 600 gigs left over for hosting files if you like. And you can access these very quickly over LAN if you're on the same local area network, or you can access everything over Tor from anywhere in the world.
Well, let me ask you this then. Like, how encrypted would that data be, right? Let's say I connect a 1 terabyte hard drive to the Embassy. So does this File Browser software encrypt all the data on that hard drive?
File browser does not encrypt data separately from the operating system. We have the infrastructure within the operating system to encrypt your data. However, full disk encryption does come typically at the cost of uptime. So the thing is that like, if I was to encrypt my entire hard drive and let's say I lost power in my house and then it came back, my device wouldn't be able to fully start up because it wouldn't be able to read the hard drive until it was decrypted. So for now, we have disabled disk encryption, but we will be building out a user experience in some of the new coming versions that will allow you to enable disk encryption so that you can be aware of, as long as you're aware of the drawbacks of that, you can go ahead and enable that, and then it will, all of the data on your drive will be encrypted with your master password. That's the password that you enter in when you first set up your embassy and whenever you want to connect to this interface.
So Tone, to elaborate just a little on the encryption question here. So take file browser, for instance. It's really important that people recognize that when you're using file browser and it is a, Dropbox, Google Drive type of experience, right? Where you can upload files, download files, share files. Essentially, it's a cloud file server. I guess we just lost Aiden again. It's like a cloud file server. When I say cloud, this is your cloud, right? This is a device that is sitting in your home, and that is where the files live. So while file browser itself does not encrypt the data at rest, you and you alone are the only person who has access to that data, right? The only way that the encryption would come into play is if somebody physically took the device from your home. If they broke into your home, took the device, then yes, your files would be accessible to that person. Not trivially, they would still have to exert some effort, but they absolutely could get access to it. As Aiden mentioned, we have already built the infrastructure that is required so that users will be able to toggle on full disk encryption, but not without a huge warning. And that warning is if you turn on full disk encryption because you're worried about somebody coming to your house and stealing your device, if your power ever goes out and comes back on, your server will not come back online until you manually enter a password. That's what full disk encryption means. So if you're ultra paranoid and want the full disk encryption, then you'll opt for that. If you think that somebody breaking into your house and stealing your server is a low probability, then you'll probably opt for the convenience of not having to enter your password every time you restart the device.
Yeah, so there's this trade-off involved there.
Yeah, Jimmy Song always loves to say, cloud is another name for someone else's computer. So in this case, you are the cloud. This is actually your computer.
It's a personal cloud. That's right. We are redefining cloud computing to cooperate with the concept of personal computing. Cloud computing should not mean the involvement of trusted third parties.
Yeah, I'd say cloud computing is someone else's hard drive. Ethereum is someone else's computer, one other person's computer.
All right, so now that we have file browser, it's all up, it's happy, our health checks are showing some success. File browser sets up a default user for us, which we can actually see here in the properties. And then I can go ahead and click this launch UI button, and then it will navigate to the unique .onion URL that is generated for this service, right? And then I can go ahead and enter in that password that I saw on the previous page. So it set up a user called admin, and then the password's on my clipboard, and then I can go ahead and log in. And here we are. Now I have an empty file browser. I can actually go ahead and upload files and do whatever I want with this, share these files, etc. The purpose of this demo today isn't really to go over any of these individual services, but really the OS as a whole. But here is the showing that the service is up. In addition to that, we have now this thing called actions. So if, let's say, I go in here into file browser, right? And I go into the settings and I go and change my password. let's see, how do I do that again? I go and I change my password to something that I forget, right? And I click update here. Then, and I forget what that password is. I would nominally be locked out of my file browser account, but here we actually just have this custom action that the person who packaged file browser was like, hey, somebody might forget their password. Here's something we can do to help solve that situation. I can go ahead and click this button and launch the service. Now, it is noting here that we cannot run this action while the service is running. So what I would have to go in here is stop the service. Then I can go into actions. Let's wait for it to complete stopping. What it does is it lets the service gracefully shut down just in case it needs to save any data. Then I go here into the actions. I click reset root user and execute. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the password of the admin user and tell us what it is. Here it is. This is our new password. So if I then go launch it again, that will be my new password. Which we can show that here. And we're back in. All right, now let's go ahead and look at one of our Bitcoin services. Here we have Bitcoin proxy. It needs to be configured. Every one of our services is going to come with a default configuration. I'm not going to mess with this configuration because I think whatever Start9 has for me is probably fine. I can go ahead and click save. And what that's doing is it's executing a command on the box that has been defined by the package developer. And that is just a piece of code that is telling the service everything that it needs to do after we configure it. And that's coming back and telling us that, hey, as a result of this configuration that you asked for, I need Bitcoin Core. And I need Bitcoin Core to work in a certain way. So here we have our dependency on Bitcoin Core, and it wants to set some properties in Bitcoin Core in order to make sure that Bitcoin proxy can work properly. It has automatically done this for me, and all I have to do is accept it. So I click save. And now this is saving the configuration of Bitcoin Core such that it can accommodate Bitcoin proxy.
Let me elaborate there too, because this can be underappreciated. Aiden just said it right, but I want to kind of like let the audience know what just happened there. Okay, so here you have not only the ability to install a couple of services, self-hosted services such as Bitcoin or Lightning with the click of a button, and then configure those services with the click of a button. But what also just happened was that Aiden had a service that was unhappy because some service that it depended on. So you can use Lightning and Bitcoin as an example here, okay? Lightning depends on Bitcoin. And if Lightning is unhappy with Bitcoin for any reason, okay, maybe it's unhappy with Bitcoin because Bitcoin isn't installed. It's unhappy with it because it doesn't exist. Or maybe it's unhappy with it because it's not running, right? It's stopped, and therefore Lightning can't work if the Bitcoin daemon is stopped. Or maybe it's unhappy with Bitcoin because you have configured Bitcoin in such a way that Lightning can't use it, okay? Bitcoin is not configured properly for Lightning. What that means is normally in the world, you as the user would now have to go configure Bitcoin manually in order to satisfy Lightning, which can be a day's work. Okay, it can be asking questions in a channel. It can be researching configuration options on bitcoin.org. It can be asking friends. It can be banging your head against a wall, but it could take you all day. With the system here, Embassy OS knew exactly what Lightning was unhappy about and exactly what Bitcoin needed to do to make Lightning happy, and it just did it for him. Okay, while you won't encounter that every day of your life, when you do encounter it and it works in that manner, you will, be very, very happy. It will save you hours of time and frustration.
So here you see, proxy is saying not running. Bitcoin proxy will not work as expected. And then there's the arrow on the right that says start.
So then I can just click that and then go ahead and start Bitcoin Core so that proxy can be happy, right? And then I can go back and here we are. Now it's saying, I'm happy. Everything that I need to be working about Bitcoin Core is working. So then once I go ahead, now I can go ahead and start this without it being unhappy about anything below it. And there we go. All right, so now we have Bitcoin Core running and we have a couple of health checks. Now, so far, all the health checks we've looked at have been about, hey, is the service just running properly? But here we have another health check that's called synced. And so the purpose of this health check is like, say I have, Lightning installed. And Lightning not only cares that Bitcoin Core is running, but it also needs it to be synced all the way to the tip of the chain. So when this health check completes here, you're actually going to see it say not just that synced isn't passing, but here that it is loading. Here we go, synced blockchain. This may take several days, progress 0%. So it's actually telling you how far it is along synced. This is not quite a failure of our health check, but it is saying that it's not ready yet. So that's a new part of our system in 0.30, and I think it's very important to how our services will interact with each other going forward.
How about properties, Aiden? Go into Bitcoin,
Sure.
maybe.
So Bitcoin also has a bunch of properties. These are like if you want to check on the status of your Bitcoin node. Here we also show our sync progress. I just started it, so the sync progress is at 0%, and we're at 15,000 blocks. But those 15,000 blocks are all tiny, so it's a very small portion of the entire blockchain. And this is all information that nominally you would have to go use Bitcoin CLI and run get blockchain info to see what was happening. And here we actually just have it straight in the UI and you can look at everything that's there. For example, here we have this Tor Quick Connect. If you want to like copy this URL into Spectre or Sparrow or Fully Noded, you can just copy this URL and drop it in there and it'll connect automatically. All of these things are things that we have provided by the package maintainer, the person who maintains the Bitcoin Core package on the Embassy OS store, can easily set up all of these things to make this a better experience for the user.
Logs.
All right, next up. So we can look at, if we want to see all the raw output that's coming from Bitcoin Core, here we have a page where we have logs, and you can look backwards through those as they go. Typically, you won't need to come look at this, but if you are, trying to fix anything that's going wrong, these can be very helpful. And just to check on, what's going on with my service. It's a great way to get some insight into what's going on, especially with a service like Bitcoin Core where you don't have a UI. Next, we also have
the logs look much cooler on 0.30 than they did on 0.2x. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, they do. Also, Bitcoin Core, we actually have several interfaces here for Bitcoin Core as well. So if you're not aware of how Bitcoin Core works, we actually have an RPC interface, which is how applications that you want to connect to Bitcoin will interact with it. But then you also have a peer interface, which is like how your Bitcoin node interacts with other Bitcoin nodes on the network. So when your Bitcoin node is syncing blocks from other nodes, it's using the.
Oh dear, looks like we lost Aiden again.
If we can get
Okay.
him different.
So
Want to take over, Chris?
yeah, Chris, go ahead and share your screen. What Aiden was getting at there is that, when you're running server-side software, one of the first questions you ask is, well, how can I use it? And a lot of the times the answer to that is a user interface, right? A graphical user interface, such as, you visit a website and that website is your portal to this service. that's running on your server. Other times, the interface that you will use to interact with your service is not a GUI, right? It's not a graphical user interface. In Bitcoin's case, it could be an RPC interface. As Aidan mentioned, there's a peer-to-peer interface, which is how your node interacts with other nodes on the network. There's the 0MQ interface. So, Bitcoin has these three interfaces, and none of them are graphical in nature. None of these interfaces are meant to be used by a human in a browser. So if you go back, Chris.
Yeah, that's why you see this little prompt here. That just means that these are machine interfaces.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Those are meant for computers and apps to use your Bitcoin Core node. So if you click on Bitcoin Core real quick one more time, you'll notice that there is, only this stop button, okay? Whereas if you go to a different service that has a user interface, so go to, one that has a user interface, any of the wallets, file browser, any of them. You'll notice that there's a launch UI button, right? So this is a browser interface, and up top, there's a launch UI. That launch UI button is there if this service comes stocked with a user interface for you to use, which of course Bitcoin does not. You have to select a wallet to use Bitcoin.
Yeah, so the kind of one of our core goals with Embassy OS is to provide a framework or a platform such that any developer can package any conceivable service that can be self-hosted and run it on here using this framework. So as Matt was saying, if the OS detects that there's a user interface, then there will be this blue launch UI button, and you'll be able to launch the UI because there is a UI. If it's like Bitcoin D, then it doesn't have a UI, and so the OS knows not to put a blue button there. And so that's kind of like an example of like dozens of little features like this that we've packed into Embassy OS to basically accommodate any conceivable service.
Yep, we already showed logs. Those are there for every service, whether they're detailed or not. We have also added a button here that allows users to donate to projects that they like. These donations do not in any way come through us. Clicking that would simply launch, a website or GitHub page that RTL, Ride the Lightning, has designated as their donations page. And as you saw, Chris just tried to click, donate, and it didn't go anywhere. So there is no,
do we have
formal
any donation buttons yet?
I'm not sure that we've added them to the packages yet.
All right, yeah.
Can you guys just do like a brief TLDR on what these apps do? Like Ride the Lightning, what exactly does it do?
Yeah, so Ride the Lightning is a front end for LND. So that basically means it's a wallet, right? That's a sort of a common term for what Ride the Lightning is. The reason why you need a wallet is because LND does not provide a user interface. LND, it only provides machine interfaces. So you need to connect some other app to LND in order to see what's happening in LND. So that's what RTL is. RTL is just, if I were to come in here, let's see if I can just do this really quick.
Right. So I think a lot of our viewers are just going to be interested. Okay, so I go to buy this box. Question number one, why am I buying it? And question number two, what can I do with it? So we already explained you're buying it to have your own personal server to run everything from. And now what you can do with it are the apps through this that you can load on top of the your custom OS. And some of them is like Sphinx Chat, which is private messaging over the Lightning Network. And the Embassy makes that a lot better and easier, where all the data remains in your own personal server.
Yeah. So look, those are the big questions, obviously, that I have spent hours at times on podcasts explaining in detail. But the short answers are: you are buying and running a personal server, whether it's from us or somebody else. If you have a desire to run a personal server, what you are saying is that you do not want trusted third parties involved in your everyday computing needs. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I don't want Google in the middle of my text messages. I don't want Apple with the ability to view the files on my iCloud. You're basically saying, I want big tech and government out of my computing life. I want to be able to do data, messaging, financial transactions, password management, whatever it is, without the involvement of trusted third parties. And the only way to do that in this world, the only conceivable way to do that in this world is to run a personal server. So if you were to go to an average person on an average day and just say, do you want to eliminate third parties from your computing life? And they say yes. And you say, okay, go run a personal server. They're just going to kind of look at you blankly. They don't know what you just said. They don't know how to do it. They don't even know where to start. This is the fastest, easiest, most convenient, most trusted, reliable, and secure way to run a personal server for an average person that has ever existed, period.
Yes.
There are other products, but we do make the claim and stand by it that Embassy and Embassy OS is the easiest, best, most reliable and secure way for an individual, technical or not, to run a personal server in privacy without trust. And so what you do with your personal server is, quite frankly, your own business, okay? Now, what can you do with a personal server is growing by the day. So as you've seen our list and our marketplace, you can do things from peer-to-peer encrypted messaging that involves no third parties, and that would be done via, so if you go to the messaging tab in the marketplace, that would be done via Synapse, for instance, or Cups Messenger, okay? These are ways that you can message, either instant message directly or through group chats, people without the involvement of third-party servers, right? So even something like Signal, which is what everyone has moved to ever since WhatsApp and, you know, all the rest of them had their security and privacy concerns. Even with something like Signal, you are using a trusted third party, right? Signal is a trusted third party in that equation. Are they running the code that they claim they're running? You have no idea. Do they have a backdoor to the encryption? You have no idea. Can they censor you? Absolutely. Do they know who you're talking to? Absolutely. Can they read your messages? Maybe. I don't know. Okay. But you are trusting them. And so if you want to do messaging without trust, running a personal server and running peer-to-peer self-hosted messaging protocols is the only way to do that. And this is the easiest way to do that. So messaging, data storage, like if you want to upload pictures or files and share them with friends and family without the involvement of Dropbox or Google or Apple, again, you need to run your own server. You need to run self-hosted file server software, and File Browser on Embassy does it easily. Financial transactions.
So let me just jump in really quick and just kind of springboard off of that. What can you do with this thing is a little bit like asking Steve Jobs or Bill Gates in the 80s, like, so this personal computer, like, what can you do with it? And it's like, maybe the way they would explain it is, okay, well, right now you have to, your company owns a mainframe and you have to log into the mainframe and all you have is a terminal and they're running all of the software for you. And so it's a little bit like that. It's a little bit like this is a new type of computer. This is a personal server. It's a new type of industry that has never existed previous to this. And so, what can you do with it? I mean, anything you want. That's the cool thing about it.
Eventually, it's anything, right? Today, it's what's on our marketplace. That marketplace, the service offering on our marketplace is going to explode over the coming 12 months. We are preparing to roll out a developer SDK that will make packaging services for Embassy OS very straightforward. Again, it's not super easy. It does require a developer to do, but it is probably easier than most people think. And as Chris said, it really is sky's the limit, right? We make the claim that absolutely anything that can be done in the current custodial, trusted personal computing model, right? When you open up your phone and you do something, anything that you can do according to the current model of personal computing can also be done in the decentralized, trustless, non-custodial model of computing that we are helping to drive forward. Today, you can't do everything in a trustless, decentralized, non-custodial way, but there is absolutely no reason why you can't in the future. with the proper infrastructure and, just to be honest, more time.
Yeah,
So-
and so we like to see ourselves as like the early days of smartphones, or the early days of personal computers. It's like we are creating a platform, and then a horde of developers is going to come and build apps for our platform, because we're designing it to make it as easy as possible for developers to do that.
So you guys just mentioned cell phones. So can I connect my cell phone to this so that when I am out and about, my data routes through the embassy through my personal server?
Yes. That's exactly
okay.
how it's designed, in fact. So you can
I-
connect to the embassy in your home from pretty much any client device. So it could be a laptop, it could be a desktop, it could be a tablet, or it could be a cell phone. And you can do it from anywhere in the world. Okay. So I can, with my embassy in my home in Denver, I can fly to another country and fire up a peer-to-peer, essentially peer-to-peer over the Tor network connection to the device in my home in Denver in such a way that it does not involve trusted third parties, is end-to-end encrypted, and is anonymously onion routed on the Tor network. So in other words, I can fire up a direct conversation with a device on the other side of the world without anyone knowing that the conversation is even taking place, let alone with the ability to stop it. And what I can do with that direct link is I can message other people who have that same link to their embassy, or to mine for that matter. I can upload files, download files, share files, conduct financial transactions. Basically anything you see here, I can do from my cell phone from the other side of the world without any third parties involved, without any trusted third parties even knowing that it's happening.
I do want to clarify, though, that it's not acting as a VPN of sorts. What's happening here is that, like, your network traffic is completely private when you are using any of the services installed to your embassy. But if you are browsing services that are not coming from your embassy, from your phone, we have no way of intermediating that. And ultimately, you're connecting to a centralized party at the end anyway. So this does nothing to help you keep your Amazon traffic more private, or your Google searches private, but it does keep everything you do with your embassy completely private and self-sovereign.
I believe
That
that's
is
on the roadmap, though.
Sure. It can be done, but it is a very common misconception of what the embassy is today. We get a lot of people who show up and think that the embassy is a cloaking device for the internet, that you can now go about the internet and be totally private and secure using your embassy. That is not true. That is not what the embassy is. The embassy is not a cloaking device for the internet. It's your own private internet. It is a way for you to do computing on a, we'll call it tunnel, okay? And it's like the internet underneath the internet, most commonly known as the dark web, referred to by us as the private web. So yes, you are leveraging the backbone, literally the fiber optic cables and the ISP infrastructure of the internet, but you are not actually going to the internet. You are hijacking their infrastructure to build your own private territory within the internet, which is why we named it the embassy, by the way, because an embassy is sovereign territory in somebody else's land. This is your sovereign territory in the land of the internet.
Yeah, and I had another question. I see it came up in the live chat as well, and Mechanic already answered it. Email support is on the roadmap for this year.
Yeah, Aiden can speak a little bit more to email. It is quite hard, actually. Email is really hard to do.
So in order for email to work properly, we need ClearNet support. What that means is being able to host services on your embassy without using Tor. Using Tor, there's a lot of things we can do for like peer-to-peer messaging. And we actually offer some of that already using Synapse with Matrix, etc. But in order to connect in with the legacy email system, you need to play with the legacy internet and the way that it tries to run things. It's very old, very antiquated, and fairly complicated. And so we'll be seeing actually in some of the coming releases, improve support for using ClearNet. That way, if you own a domain or you want to have space on a subdomain that somebody else has, you'll be able to just go to a regular like legacy website that connects to your embassy, as opposed to using Tor. And this is going to be necessary for any sort of email service. That said, coming very soon, the embassy will be able to send emails. So if you have, notifications coming on your embassy, and you want to be notified of that as opposed to checking into your embassy dashboard, if you want something to show up in your email address saying, hey, you have new notifications in your embassy, why don't you check it out? That's coming very soon as well.
Yeah, so basically, we want to do email in as sovereign and totally private way as we possibly can. And it's just, there are other offerings out there that are like self-hosted email, but they generally involve using a centralized, hosting, a service provider of some sort. And you will have to get a domain, and you will have to get a SSL certificate. And so all of these are introducing little elements of centralization into the embassy, which right now is frankly like the most private device in existence. So it's going to be a little bit of a project to get it done the way, like in an elegant way that we like.
Right. And we want all forms of centralization that get integrated with the embassy to be opt-in. We don't want, it's very important that everything that you can do with your embassy, you need to be able to do without any centralization forces at all. So no requirement for a domain from like a DNS provider, no requirement for an SSL certificate. But there can be advantages to using these legacy systems. And so if you want to opt in, you can. It's just very important that you can use your embassy without it.
All right. No, very cool. The email seems like a challenge that no one could really solve. Email spam, even to this day. And I'm still waiting for someone to come up. We have Lightning now, right? Why can't I get paid to receive emails with a fraction of or a few Satoshis for every email that I get from an email address that is not saved in my address book? And once it's saved in my address book, then the incoming emails are free to the sender. Can someone solve this problem?
This is absolutely something that we can build on top of the Lightning Network. And this is actually one of the reasons why I'm really, really excited about the embassy, is because it enables exactly this type of third layer application. We actually already have Sphinx Chat, which I don't have installed. But that is exactly the type of application that I'm personally like really excited about. And so somebody's just got to build it, and then we'll package it for the embassy, and everybody will be able to use it.
Yeah, like things like that are already coming, but while Sphinx is an obvious example of that, that kind of functionality, because there isn't really that much difference between chat and email when you think about it anyway. It's just email is its own protocol, and it's kind of, I was chatting with Matt about it before. It's kind of a dead medium, right? Because like if you get locked out of the big data like little group they have, like often your emails can just bounce back, right? If you have your own email server and you try and email a Gmail account, it's quite likely that it doesn't arrive. So that's just because email has become, what's the word? As a protocol, it's become captured by these platforms. You can get locked out of it.
And not only that, of like, sure, you could send an email to a Gmail account and maybe it won't get black holed and it'll actually arrive, but if you are running a private email server because you want to be more private, you don't want Google reading your emails, Google is still going to read your emails if you send it to a Gmail account, right? And so it's important that the person on the other side is running their email in a sovereign way. But like, in my opinion, the way that we do that in a safe and sovereign way is we move to protocols besides email for communication. That way, you know for a fact that the other person on the other side needs to have set this up in a sovereign way in order to use it in the first place.
Yeah, look, email was designed as a decentralized protocol, just like much of the internet itself was designed as a decentralized protocol. But as we saw with both the internet and even more acutely email, just because something is a decentralized protocol does not mean that it is in fact decentralized. Okay. If there is only a couple people on Earth who are running the servers through which that implement this quote decentralized protocol, through which everyone else must speak, well, then in fact, the network is centralized. And you see this all the time with a bunch of shitcoins, right? They have written code or quite frankly, just copied Bitcoin and said, oh, we're decentralized. And a Bitcoiner is going to go, you're not decentralized, because decentralization isn't about the potentiality of the thing. It's about the actuality. It's about whether it is in fact, in practice, decentralized. And so what allowed email to become centralized is that nobody ran their own email server, right? Only a couple people had the technical expertise and diligence to run an email server, and then everyone else just used their servers. And so it became in practice centralized, right? Email was captured, it was co-opted. And that can absolutely happen to Bitcoin, right? That's why it's critical that not just Bitcoin, but with any decentralized protocol, that people run their own nodes, right? It's what ensures the network decentralization. And if it's hard to do, nobody will do it. So in short, the whole essence of Embassy OS is to make self-hosting nodes and other server implementations easy enough for grandma so that we don't lose this time around, that this revolution of the internet remains decentralized.
Yeah, we're finishing what the internet started here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go back to the Embassy tab real quick, there was a couple of things that we didn't touch on at all that I think might be worth just kind of showing real quick.
I think I dropped off actually while I was explaining this. Did we manage to go over backups?
Not yet.
Okay. So something new in Embassy OS 3.030, we now have the ability to do full Embassy backups to a network attached storage device. So if you go ahead and click on Create Backup, Chris, now, in addition to being able to plug in a USB drive, now we also have these shared folders. So if like Chris on his Mac has gone and shared a folder, such that his Embassy can connect to it and can back up its data to that folder.
Encrypted too.
Encrypted, yes. And any data that leaves the device during a backup, for example, from the Embassy is always going to be encrypted with your master password. Because any data that doesn't need to be live, there is no trade-off with respect to encryption, and therefore we are always going to encrypt it. So yeah, Chris has been able to, he's basically just gone in and entered in the information about how to connect to his Mac's shared folder, and it has been saved on his Embassy. So now whenever he wants to make a backup, he can just click this backups folder and create a new backup to it. And what this will do is it will go through each of his services, and the service will decide what new data it needs to back up from last time. So we still are doing incremental backups, such that we don't need to back up everything every time, just what's changed since last time. And it will go through each of these services and run that backup to the shared folder.
So, so this is going to, as Aiden said, it's going to loop through every single service that Chris has installed and create a backup. Why this is unique in a sense is that, so when you back up Bitcoin, that is a unique thing. It's not a matter of just taking every last piece of data that Bitcoin has ever accumulated and just blindly shoving it into a file, right? For Lightning, that can actually be dangerous. It can result in loss of funds if you do that. So what Embassy is doing here is it is backing up each and every service in exactly the way that that service uniquely wants to be backed up. And it is doing it encrypted to another device anywhere on your home network that you have chosen to as the destination.
Exactly. So the service decides what data is important to keep in the backup and what data is ephemeral, right? What needs to be thrown away and reconstructed if you want to restore from a backup. So for example, in Lightning, we have our channel backups that we back up, but we don't want to back up the entire Lightning database because broadcasting old states can be dangerous. So all we do is we back up the channel backups. And so when you restore, you actually go ahead and rebuild those channels from the channel backups, just in case you had stale data. Because if you have a stale backup and you try to just turn that Lightning service on with that stale data, bad things can happen, and we don't want to allow that. But we did this in a generalized way, a way that's not specific to Lightning. Every service can decide what it wants to back up and how. Also, I'd like to point out that notice how each of these services is actually still running while this backup is happening. The service that is being backed up is being temporarily frozen in place. Its data is being pulled out, and then it's left on its merry way. So you have minimal disruption to your services while this backup is happening.
Because if backups took forever or were disruptive, nobody would do it. So doing a backup here is a button, and you can go about your business while it's happening.
Yeah, and people are typically super undisciplined with backups anyway. We know that, but in the self-hosting space, it takes on another order of magnitude of importance. You've got to back up because there's no one to turn to. It's the natural progression. All this from not your keys, not your coins. You're moving forward into every other digital service, and you've got to be diligent with stuff like this.
So you can see the overall progress if you go back to the Embassy tab. You can always just check in on where you are in the overall backup flow. Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead and click on the Embassy tab.
Oh, this is your screen?
There we go. So and see how it says at the top, it's backing up. You can go ahead and click on that, and it'll actually show you how far it is along with the backups. So these are the order of services of what we're backing up, and we have one that's in progress, and we've got 5 more to go.
Yeah. But again, you can just go about your business while this is happening. It's not preventing you from using your Embassy.
Yep. And this is actually a common theme in O3O. Another thing that we're doing here, can you go ahead and leave the backup tab, Chris? In addition to having backups continue while everything's still running and minimal disruption, you can actually now even update Embassy OS without any disruption whatsoever until the backup is complete. All you have to do is you can even update Embassy OS while it is backing up.
Do we want to try?
Sure, go ahead. You can go to the marketplace and go ahead and click Update Embassy OS, and it will download the update in the background. And when it's complete, then you just restart the Embassy. Are you connected to the beta registry, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's possible that we actually don't have it available on the beta registry. Like somebody reported something earlier today about that we hadn't pushed the proper configuration or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. So we're still in beta here, and some of our marketplace infrastructure, it changes on a day-to-day basis, but
yeah, it's because nobody's using it in the wild right now, at least at scale. We have some beta testers, so every once in a while we break things, and yeah.
Anyway, I just want you guys to look at this Lightning tab and just picture it being filled with third layer Lightning apps with all these little machine to machine services, like host part of your hard drive and people can pay you to host their files, host part of your bandwidth and people can pay you to to forward data around,
or even back up your embassy onto somebody else's embassy, and they charge you Lightning micropayments for each sliver of data that you want to store on their embassy.
Yeah, I already store some critical data I have of my own. I made it up into a folder. I encrypted that folder, and then I put it on my friend's embassy. So I know it's like, even if he wanted to open it and do stuff with it, there's nothing he can do with it. It's all encrypted. But if everything goes wrong for me, if I'm traveling around the world and I lose access to all my digital devices, I have this digital bank vault I made for myself that I can access at any time. And we're going to make that so it's like an actual a thing you can do with your embassy, not manually, but you can actually.
But like, so don't you have to go there in person and retrieve it, or you can actually access it remotely?
No, you can using file browser. It's a cloud storage substitute.
Because you did say it was an encrypted file, but you would be able to decrypt it. Remote.
Yeah, I can decrypt it because I have the password. But it's like if I store an encrypted volume on your iCloud or your Google Drive or anything like that, you don't know what it is because you don't know the password to decrypt it. But I'm just using someone else's embassy to do that instead. And same applies. All they need to do is give me a link to where the file is. It's just that link is to their to a directory on their embassy rather than on some Google server somewhere. Exactly the same functionality otherwise, though.
Yeah, so all you Bitcoin and Lightning developers out there, I want you to be thinking about how you can write a cool Lightning app that leverages this infrastructure, because the sky really is the limit.
All right. Do we have any questions from the live viewers, guys?
I've been in there the whole time. People are.
You've been answering some. Anything interesting we should discuss on?
Definitely.
Voice?
If people have issues with one particular service, we do try to offer alternatives for things. Like if you don't like Matrix Protocol, there's another similar protocol called Kuch, I think it's pronounced, that we're in the process of integrating now. And if you don't like LND for Lightning, you can use C Lightning instead. We're not trying to force anyone to do anything. And in the same vein, our marketplace isn't the one you have to use. If you don't like any of our apps, you can make another marketplace, and other people can use your marketplace if they want to as well. So we're trying to have as little control over our users as absolutely as much as possible.
Yeah, you have ultimate freedom here. This is all open source. Sorry, go ahead.
Part of the reason why it is such a almost tribalistic thing when it comes to like what services these devices offer is because until us, it is entirely bundled. Okay, so any other Bitcoin node product on the market is essentially the node producer's decision about, okay, we are creating a plug and play device that runs this software. All right. And you're sort of bound to that decision, meaning if you want to run something other than what they offer, you're sort of shit out of luck, right? You are the limit of what you can run, and the versions of those things that you can run, by the way, too, which is a different conversation and has security implications, is not up to you. You are at the behest of what they choose to run on your system. And we went a totally different route. And we said, we are creating a generalized personal cloud computer, AKA a server, and you as the individual choose what you want to run, what version you want to run it at, period. There's no forced updates. There's no bundling whatsoever. If you update Embassy OS, none of your services will be updated. You will have to go through and decide which, if any, services you want to update. If you don't want to run LND, don't run LND. Instead, if you want to run C Lightning, run C Lightning. So we've tried to build this as modular and as possible, and that is extremely difficult to do. It's not that, we believe that people should be able to run whatever they want to run, and our counterparts don't believe that. It's that it's really hard to do. There's a reason why personal servers have been so esoteric over the years, so difficult to use. It's because making them easy to use without injecting these hardline opinions about how everything works is just incredibly, incredibly difficult to do. And so we have been working on this now for years with a very talented team, and are now finally pleased to announce that with 030, which is imminently being released, it's in advanced beta testing at this point, there's almost no bugs left, is without a doubt a landmark in personal computing history, where it is now possible for an average, everyday, non-technical individual to run a personal server from the privacy of their own home and access it without permission from anywhere in the world and run any variety of software that they see fit, not that we see fit, is now possible. So that is kind of the overarching point of this, and what we're so excited to come to Unconfiscatable and talk about and show people in person, because you kind of do have to experience it to get it. It is a bit out there still. Chris had mentioned earlier that it's like the 1980s for personal computing. One of the first questions everyone asks is, well, who the hell needs that and what can you do with it? And the answer was, well, you can do word processing and paint. But look at what happened, okay? We are on the verge of a new computing revolution as big as the one that took place in the 1980s. And if you give it another decade or two, and enough companies like us and enough individuals like us, personal computing on Earth is going to be decentralized. The future is self-hosted.
Yeah, we want these decentralized self-hosted apps to be fruitful and multiply. We want 1,000 competing versions of Lightning and third layer applications and password managers and chat apps. Like, we want all of it. We're agnostic as to what you run.
All right, Lex, you want to comment on a question that came in about the safety of the apps and the open sourceness of all the code and your code review?
Yeah, sure. So every app in the marketplace at the moment is packaged up by people within the Start9 team. Anyone in the community is free to package up an app if they like. We are not obligated to put it in our marketplace, but you're not obligated to use our marketplace. Currently, the Start9 marketplace is the only one where we will vouch for everything in it, and everything has been reviewed. Anyone is welcome to review anything in it as well. All the source code is fully available. We hope that there'll be alternative marketplaces in the future where anyone can put any app that they want. We just can't vouch for ones that we don't personally make.
Yeah, and definitely be extra careful if you're downloading from some unknown developer.
And isn't that going to get a little challenging with updates to some of these apps by their developers?
Challenging, absolutely. But we have a strategy in place. What you're talking about is identity. You're talking about how is a service, we call them instead of apps, how are they uniquely identified? For instance, if you download Bitcoin Core from the Start9 marketplace, right? You plugged in your Embassy, you went to our marketplace, and you download Bitcoin Core. Some point 10 years from now, Bitcoin's hard forking. And we at Start9 are like, if you go to our marketplace, you're getting this Bitcoin Core because we've decided that this is Bitcoin. And you as an individual disagree with us, and you want to go get this other Bitcoin from a different marketplace, you will be able to do that. And Embassy OS will have the sort of uniqueness identifiers available to it to make sure that it is in fact the Bitcoin you want it to be. And that will involve signatures. It'll involve you essentially trusting certain people, developers, for instance, to sign packages. And then you'll say, well, if it's signed by that developer, I trust it. Or if it's signed by that developer, I trust it. And nothing stops you, nothing, from just wiping the slate clean and installing the thing that you want. And if it's not offered on any marketplace in the world, you can sideload it. Services do not have to be installed on Embassy through a hosted official marketplace. You can literally go get the binary, the S9PK, we call it, that you want to install onto your Embassy and just shove it in through the side. You don't even need a market.
You can also just take the source and build the S9PK yourself.
Correct. Yeah.
Which we encourage people to do, obviously.
Yeah. So not only are we not the only marketplace, but you actually don't need a marketplace at all to discover and run services on your device.
All the marketplace is, at the end of the day, is a collection of these S9PK files in a nice, fun, and easy to browse way. Yep. But when it comes down to it, all you need is these files, these packages that have everything they need to tell Embassy OS how to run it.
Yeah. If you're an Android user, Graphene or Calyx, you understand this because you can go to the Google Play Store and download, an app that you want to run on your phone. Or you can go get the APK file directly from somebody and just install it. And it's the same thing with Embassy.
There's a few apps we haven't touched on that are really cool that people should know about. So we've got an app called Burn After Reading, which is effectively the world's most secure alternative to something like Pastebin or dpaste. After someone's viewed it, it's gone forever. We've got an app called Embassy Pages, which is an automatic tour website that integrates with your file browser as well. So you can have a website, a .onion website. So it's a Tor hidden service. It can only be accessed over the Tor network. But with that, you get all the privacy benefits of it being Tor. No one can know where the server's located. And you can host anything on it that's in your file browser anyway. So it's really easy. And in your Dubai conference, Tone, I spun up a whole website in about 15 minutes using a fresh, brand new embassy, which is just mind blowing to me that we make it that easy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, go for it.
Let's say you had a website advertising a conference, right? Let's say Unconfiscatable brochure website, landing page, like come to Vegas. Here we go. And you had it on unconfiscatable.com. And somebody somewhere decided that this was an undesirable event. You weren't going to be following proper protocols. And they're like, nope, we're taking it down. That's bad speak. And there goes your website. Okay. Using Embassy, the Embassy device that exists today, not some future theoretical thing, you could spin up a Tor hidden service duplicate of that same website on a random, newly, never before seen .onion URL that could not only not be taken down, but nobody would know where it was hosted. Nobody knew who put it up there. It could have been you. It could have been somebody else. We're talking about unstoppable websites or apps, right? That anyone can just broadcast into the world with impunity, without permission, and without the possibility of censorship.
But what would the IRL be? Obviously, it wouldn't be unconfiscatable.com. It would be just like a set of numbers, alphanumerical letters and numbers.
Exactly. It would be
on your own server.
It would be an onion public key, and what that is it's a public key that is about 256 bits long, but gets converted into this these lowercase letters and numbers.
It looks a little bit like a Bitcoin address. It's pretty long.
Yeah, which means that you would need to share it, or others would need to share it, right, on various social medias, including decentralized social medias like Mastodon running on Embassy. So it wouldn't be unconfiscatable.com, but it would be unstoppable. It would be unstoppable unconfiscatable.onion. Yeah.
And that is that because you have that public key in the URL, anybody who visits that URL in their browser, they can know that I am connecting to the real thing that has that corresponding private key without relying on a centralized certificate authority, right? Like normally when you go to unconfiscatable.com, my browser connects to it and then it asks, DigiCert, hey, is this thing the real Unconfiscatable or is somebody trying to mess with me here? And DigiCert's like, yeah, this is the right guy. But when it comes to using these onion URLs, there's nobody else you're asking. It's just being like, I know that whoever is hosting this has the private key associated with the public key I'm connecting to.
Yeah, it's worth hosting everything. I've had podcast, if there's videos you really want, like some of the more controversial videos to do with, I guess, alternative medicine and stuff like that have been coming out over the last 2 years. I downloaded a lot of those videos and put them up on my Embassy server just because then they're there. If I want to send someone the video and they know how to use the Tor network, I just say, here's the link. You can just watch the MP4 file here, download it here. If you try and upload it to YouTube or anything like that, it just gets taken down. So the more authoritarian big data platforms become, just like the more money printing central banks do, the more incentive and the more obvious the use case is for things like Embassy and things like Bitcoin.
All right, yeah, very cool. And I am looking forward to one day hosting all of my own videos in a simple way and just routing people to that traffic.
Yeah, do it.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're ready to wrap it up. Any closing thoughts as I do screen share one more time, just to show people where they can get more information. I have the price of Bitcoin up on my laptop. So you guys can see where we are right now. I think we're going to go back up for a little while, but the show is not about price. We are talking about the Embassy from Start9. You can see it right here on my affiliate page. If you just click on that, you get a message saying that I am promoting the site. This is their website. If you purchase an embassy, well, today or the first 9 people, whichever happens first, if we sell more than 9 of them today, then a few more will get a free ticket to Unconfiscatable. When you go and buy it, put in Unconfiscatable as the discount code, and that will get you a free ticket to the conference. The conference is taking place in Las Vegas at the D Hotel, March 3rd to 6th. The conference days are 4 and 5. The carnivory dinner is already sold out, but you will meet the Start9 team at the dinner. They will have a couple of people at the dinner and speakers. We're not sure if Lex can make it, but Matt Hill will also be speaking at the event. All right. Any closing thoughts, guys, as I pull up your social media?
Yeah, become sovereign. Sovereign computing is the way.
All right. That was Bitcoin Mechanic. You just heard Chris and Aiden. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully, people are going to be excited to picking up an embassy. If not now, then certainly at the conference. Thanks so much for joining. I'm proud that you guys chose us to be a sponsor one more time, and looking forward to hanging out with you guys and chatting in Vegas in a month.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tone.
Thanks, guys.